guys, welcome back to my channel. So today, this is the most exciting video I think I've made in a while. I'm basically gonna be letting you guys into the other side of my life, which happens to consist of all things alternative spirituality, esoteric, occult, and divination, psychology and stuff. That's what most people who know me are fully aware of, because I started writing and recording a lot of my esoteric, occult, witchcraft, pagan experiences from like 15, maybe more years ago. So most people knew me under a particular pen name, and they still do now, even though I now go by my married name. So much so that when I got into writing and deciding to actually take writing like more seriously, I then developed a pen name for that. So now people who know me under my spiritual name now know me under my married name, so that doesn't really change. I only have the pen name for my authorship. But one really interesting thing, and I guess this is the kind of collision of that side of my world that I've spent many years trying to sort of like cultivate and trying to grow, is that I'm able to now kind of bring these two worlds together. I mean, I kind of already did that with the publication of my first book, which was a collection of essays to do with mental health, self-care, and esoteric experiences with like the dark night of the soul and stuff like that. So I kind of already had those two worlds collide, but it's just really interesting and really fun now to be able to do that more on a, I guess, on a wider general audience and sort of see what you guys think and do differently in your writing lives. So this should be no different. However, like I said, this is a very exciting video. I did film it a few days ago. I'm currently not very well right now, so that's why I look like absolute hell. But yeah, it was a really fun video. Please be respectful, please comment down below. And I've also added toward the end of the video just 3 examples of some of the spreads that I've been using over the past, I want to say like 3 or 4 years, for novels, plotting, character development and such. So if they seem really interesting, I will try and get them up over on my website, and then you can just download them and keep them and alter them and do whatever you want if you happen to be a card slinger as well. So I think that's it. So now I'm just going to go into an example of one of the spreads that I do and how helpful it can actually be for at least one of my novels and hopefully for one of yours. And yeah, I think that's it. So yeah, I'll do that. Okay, so this is just a look at 2 methods that I use when I'm trying to get myself out of a narrative blockage. If I find that my character has gotten to a point in the story where they've come to a crossroads, or there's many different options that I could have them go down, and I'm not quite sure which one would work right away, then I go for more of a psychological in-depth view, I guess you could say. And then I can decide which would make more sense. Do I go down path A first, then path B, and then path E, and then go through the other paths later on? Or does it make sense to do the other stuff first and then come back to the other stuff later? So it's merely, tarot is merely just to sort of help me get out of those particular issues, those particular ruts that I'm struggling to sort of see a tangible end to, if that makes sense. So, okay. What I normally do, I'm not doing it here, obviously. What I normally do is I'll write down the question or the issue that I have in my tarot journal or my writing journal. This is just my main sort of like writing journal that I sort of take with me on the go. And normally I would then put the question at the top of the page, and then as each card is then flipped over, I would then write down exactly what I see and the psychological elements that I get from the tarot card. Just bearing in mind, the only reason why I keep saying psychological is because tarot, especially for a lot of people who aren't practitioners of like witchcraft or the occult or anything like that, tarot is actually a really good self-care tool. It's merely just a bunch of cards, 78 of them, that represent various stories and archetypes. So when you're asking yourself difficult questions and whether or not you should deal with a particular situation and how you can deal with a particular situation, like you're really thinking about it and you just need a solid answer, sometimes it's good just to pick up the cards of archetypes and then just see what the cards are telling you, basically. they usually tell you what you already know, but that's why I kind of like them. So from like a non-magical point of view, this is what I tend to do when I'm just working in just regular life. So I'll have the question. In this case, it's about Sienna Wormwood Byrne, who is the main character of book 1 of the Wormwood series. And at some point when I was actually writing, I did get to a point where I had to decide, because she was at a crossroads, do I go down the path of career and allow her to join the temple, become one of the coven leaders, and eventually lead her to killing one of the main villains fairly early in the book? Or do I let her go down the path of love and then potentially getting melodramatic by getting pregnant and all that kind of stuff, and then she has to fight, potentially putting the baby and her partner, who isn't a witch, in danger, and like making it kind of like weird like that. So I was like, ooh, the melodrama needs to be thrown in there. I wasn't entirely sure how or in what order I wanted to put them. So I did a reading and it really helped. So I've kind of got myself out of that situation. So in this case, for this example, I'm just showing you 2 examples, like I said, where I did those kind of readings. So like I said, I put down the question in the notebook and then I will follow through. The first card that I will draw is usually an archetype or a representation of the question or the situation at hand. So in this case, I've got the Fool. So I'll put that with the question. The Fool usually represents naivety, innocence. Like, as you can see here, she's not really seeing or looking where she's going, and she's literally at the edge of a cliff. She's hopeful, she's naive. So in this case, that's a really good indicator. If I make my character in that particular situation come across like the Fool, that will probably help for a much nicer story, in that the reader will be able to follow that particular character making all these stupid mistakes, and you as the reader can be screaming at the book like, oh my god, why are you making these mistakes? But it will all make sense depending on what the other cards then reveal. So like I said, she's at a crossroads. It's either school, career, joining the temple, potentially killing the villain, or going in the path of love. The easy way of reading, actually no, I'll do the more complex one. The more complex way that I tend to do a reading like this is, once I've got the question or the situation already out of the way, I then come up with a strong answer if she decided to go down path A. So in this case, she's the magician. She has tools of the trade and using her own skills to get her into the school, get her into the coven, get her career sorted out. Ultimately, this will be good because I could then build on a strong character who is then able to defeat the villain fairly early on, at least one of the main villains anyway. If I wanted a much more definitive answer and what I could do to sort of spice up the storyline a little bit more so it's not as predictable, I could then perhaps pull out another card. So in this case, it's the 5 of Wands. As you can see here, there's one person wearing one color, and like the four other people around them are basically, they're all fighting and they're all wearing black. So narratively, from a plot point of view, I could probably say that maybe when she's at the coven and she's getting ready to defeat the villain, maybe she can work out who the villain is. It happens to be someone who's part of her friendship group. And instead of having this group of people around her to help her defeat the person, they're all too busy fighting with each other, gossiping, maybe because the villain has done something to make them sort of get too distracted about what's actually going on. Or maybe she can have everybody turn against her. Who knows? That's just what I would do to sort of like spice up that particular path if she happened to go that particular way. That's that one. So the other one would be about love. Oh God, how convenient. This particular card would represent love. This card is the Lovers. It usually represents love, balance, duality. I could go on, I'll do that on my occult channel. So in that case, all right, cool. So I've got Sienna going down the path of love. It's her and Foxy. I could talk about all the cute things that they get to do as a couple. You know, they're both people at a certain point in their lives where they should be settling down, their career should be set, but she decides that maybe she wants to go down the path of motherhood. But again, if I want to spice it up a little bit more, oh God, even more. I've got the Strength card here. So Strength usually, it's kind of all in the name. It sort of embodies someone who happens to be incredibly strong, strong-willed, They stand their ground, they make the correct judgments, and even if they do find themselves having to make difficult decisions, then it's a case of trying to work out how they can get around those difficult decisions. So as far as a plot is concerned, maybe instead of making it as easy as possible, maybe she could find love, maybe she can get pregnant, maybe she can then risk her pregnancy when she has to go into battle with the villain later on in the story. Do you see what I mean? So it's kind of handy in that sense. So that's what helps kind of juice up the plot a little bit more. If I already have a rough idea as far as like juicing up the plot is concerned, then I will just pull out just the 3 cards, or depending on how many situations there are, it'll be the question card and then several cards for each of the issues that I will then end up having. So yeah, that usually just kind of helps. That's how I use tarot to sort of help me get out of any kind of like narrative issues that I come across. This particular deck is the Modern Witch Tarot card deck. I will go much further in depth with it, like I said, on my main channel. So yeah, it's just a great deck, and each deck is made up of 78 cards. I'm just blathering now. But like I said, as far as psychology is concerned, each image is merely just an archetype. So you basically just go with whatever you feel the image is telling you, unless you decide that you actually do want to start studying the reading of tarot cards and stuff, then you can probably get a lot more insight from each card as time goes on. And yeah, it's a really helpful writing tool. So yeah, if you're curious, check it out, let me know. And I highly recommend this particular deck if you're brand new to tarot. I highly, highly, highly recommend this deck. It's nice and easy to understand. But yeah, that's it. Just go back to the main part of the video, I guess. Thank you all for watching that video. Like I said, it's a very brief one. For whatever reason, I didn't actually add that particular spread as one of the 3 pictures that you'll see in a moment. But I will add it to the website just in case you happen to be interested. If you want to get to sort of like a crossroads point in your story as far as like story and character development are concerned, if you would like something like that, I'll put them over on my website. Details for everything will be down below. As for the tarot card deck, I don't have the cover with me. I didn't bring it with me, but it's the Modern Witch Tarot by Lisa Stowe, which is this. It's a funky little deck. It's a very inclusive deck as well. So if you're brand new to the world of tarot and it's always interested you, and then all of a sudden like, oh, here's an opportunity for me to check out tarot whilst doing more writing things and try and teach myself, this is a really great deck that I would highly recommend getting into at first if you've never had a deck before. But I think that is pretty much everything for now. I can't think of anything. Yeah, so I'm just gonna get back to writing. So yeah, thank you for watching. Yeah, just have a great day.